You are listening to the Beltway Wars Invitational Podcast, hosted by Adam Jackson and Patrick Wilton. Enjoy the show.
All right, hello and welcome to the Beltway Wars Invitational Fantasy Football Podcast Week 12 recap. That was like so... Adam, it is Thanksgiving Eve.
I'm a little under the weather,
more...
and by a little I mean a lot under the weather. So
shit.
you will not get the same enthusiasm as you would in weeks.
Oh, great. All right. Well, I'll have to bring the energy tonight then, I guess.
And
but...
I'm glad you said about 3 hours ago that this is going to be an extra long show. Really looking forward to that.
Great segue, Adam, because as you know, we are doing this show on the eve of Thanksgiving. So, in the spirit of the holiday, I wanted to kick off the show with some fantasy feast analysis to load up our proverbial dinner plates in advance of tomorrow's Thanksgiving holiday. So, Adam, just as we need to make lineup decisions every week in fantasy football, we have to set our lineup. Dinner plates also are only so big, and the Thanksgiving bounty comes replete with a smorgasbord of options from which to choose. So, I want to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving dinner to start this show. I want to see where we agree, where we disagree, and then wait for the rest of the league to tell us that our takes are awful on Thanksgiving dinner. I think it's important to discuss. I think this is an important topic of discussion. You know, I just think it's very important.
Just so everyone knows, I had nothing to do with this. So I apologize for the next 10 minutes.
My company, as they have done in the past, gave us off at 1 o'clock, told us to go home. So I needed something to do. So I worked this little segment up. And so, Adam, we're going to go position by position, Thanksgiving delicacy by Thanksgiving delicacy, and walk through a fantasy lineup for our Thanksgiving dinner. Whether people listen to this or not, I hope they do. I think this will be fun. I'm curious. Here's the reason I'm really doing it. I think you probably, knowing you, I think you just have awful food takes. Like, you're the guy that just orders chicken tenders and fries and like pizza. So I'm just I'm really curious to see, and maybe this will lead to like a Friendsgiving in the future for the league or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. All right, well, let's get into it because we want to get to the matchups. And again,
so you talk about Thanksgiving, friends, all this stuff, and you completely roast me.
Well, you were shaking your head, yes, so it wasn't like out of. I don't think it was out of line. All right, well, just as the quarterback is the most valuable position in fantasy, on a Thanksgiving dinner plate, the main dish is perhaps the first and foremost important decision that you'll have to make when loading up your plate. So we're going to keep this simple to start. You've got a couple reliable options there: dark meat turkey. You've got light meat turkey. Or you might see a reason to zig while everyone else zags by giving the starting nod, to an option like ham or prime rib or something else. Which way are you going with your main dish on Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, to keep it Thanksgiving themed, I feel like dark meat is like Josh Allen, where it's just like reliable staple. You know what you're going to get. Light meat's like Lamar Jackson. Light meat turkey, and then like prime rib is like Jacoby Brissett, where it's just like kind of out of nowhere, but can really score a lot of points if it's done correctly and you're in the mood for it. But I'm gonna go with light meat turkey, even though I'm going to say that turkey is the most overrated food ever. People rarely ever do it correctly. At least for the ones I've been to, it's completely overrated. Thanksgiving would be much better if there was just chicken, and that is my soapbox. But if I had to choose, light meat turkey is for me.
Well, I said you could have gone another way, but if you're going to try to keep it to Thanksgiving, okay. I actually I will agree with you, and I know a lot of people that will disagree with both of us. I think a lot of people will say dark meat turkey. My reasoning for light meat turkey is I'm a big gravy guy, and I think gravy, like dark meat turkey, is already kind of wet and slippery. Adding gravy to it just kind of makes it a little bit too wet. So give me the light meat turkey. Give me the gravy and let's call it a day. Okay, so far we're both starting light meat turkey at our QB position here.
You have bad taste as I do, apparently.
All right, well I don't. But your take about turkey being overrated, just
It is overrated. I'm gonna put a poll in the chat.
I
Say,
mean,
is turkey overrated? It is overrated. I had a huge discussion about this at work with my coworkers. Everyone thinks turkey's overrated.
uh, well anyway, they're missing out or having bad turkey. Maybe you should come to our house for Thanksgiving or something. But anyway, all right, moving on, Adam. We're going to move on to the running back position here. Most winning teams, as you know, have a couple of reliable, high volume running backs that their coaches trust a lot. Guys you can rely on. And you've got to have that on your plate for Thanksgiving dinner in the form of workhorse sides. So, Adam, you've got, just like our league, you've got two spots to fill, and you might have three pretty good options here in mashed potatoes, sweet potato casserole, and mac and cheese. So, you have to basically sit one of these on your Thanksgiving plate. Which one are you sitting?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to go with mashed potatoes first. I mean, that's a staple of Thanksgiving. It's turkey and mashed potatoes are the 1-2 punch for any Thanksgiving meal. And then I'm going to actually go with mac and cheese, which I've had a renaissance with.
Mm,
When people make it correctly, they do like the nice baked mac and cheese in a pan.
oh, yeah.
It's way to go. So
Yep.
I'm going to go with those two: the old reliable mashed potatoes, and the young gun mac and cheese.
All right. So with the mac and cheese, like, are you a around the rim guy? Like, give me the crispies around the outside, or you go right in the middle?
Not me either. I mean, I like them both. Depends on what my
You're
mood is.
nothing. All right. All right. Well, that's okay. So here's our first difference. I agree with you. Mashed potatoes is a must. Homemade mashed potatoes. Our family only makes homemade mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. Get the buttery, creamy, just chef's kiss. I'm gonna go sweet potato casserole. I was never a big fan of this. I've come around to this later in life with marshmallows on top and nuts in there. We actually do it half with marshmallows and half without because some people like the marshmallows, some people don't. Mac and cheese to me just seems like we have that on a lot of different holidays. And I feel like just Thanksgiving, I'm gonna go double potatoes. Sweet potato casserole, you can't eat that anywhere else. You have to do that on Thanksgiving. If you're making sweet potato casserole for Easter, like that doesn't work. Mac
Yeah.
and cheese, make it for Easter. So, as much as I love mac and cheese, I think there's other holidays that you can partake
I think
there.
it's
So
like
I
the
will
one
go.
like cheesy option that you have at a Thanksgiving. So I think it's a good difference between what we're going to get into with the wide receivers, tight ends, flex, defense, kickers.
Okay, that's fair. I see the argument. That's a close one. I mean, ideally, probably I'm starting mac and cheese in my flex spot, but we'll get there. Um, all right, Adam, on to the wide receiver
Wait, can I just say
upside.
mac and cheese is like Shane Vereen back in the day. He's like not a traditional running back. He's like a PPR monster, like a Danny Woodhead kind of
Mhm.
versatile. Not
I
your
mean, like,
traditional.
I don't know. I feel like okay, for Thanksgiving's sake, yes, I see that. But just as a one-to-one comparison, mac and cheese, like Shane Vereen down here, mac and cheese, like, wait, it's still like
I just know how much you love
outclassing.
Shane Vereen.
You cannot go wrong with those three options. So, all right. At the wide receiver position, Adam, this is a position that upside to me feels particularly important. And there's usually a ton of options on the bench in free agency. That's a position that, you can find guys quite often. So I'm going to give you seven different options, Adam,
Yeah.
for some high upside, big play sides. We're going to stick with the sides, go big play sides. I want you to rank your top three out of these seven in order. So here's your options. This is where we might start to get into a little bit of disagreement, but we'll see how that goes.
Most likely.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go stuffing. Okay, green bean casserole, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, glazed carrots, dinner rolls, and cornbread as your 7 options. So I need you to rank your top 3 of those.
Okay, so the first one had, I mean, going back to what you were saying, Thanksgiving staple is stuffing. It's not really something that you're really going to make anywhere else, so that's number one. Number two, I feel like two of these can be combined with dinner rolls and cornbread. It's just kind of your preference, but I would go with dinner rolls, just like the Hawaiian rolls are. They're really, really
Mhm.
good with the melted butter. It's always a good little carb option that you do have. And then number three, I'm gonna go with glazed carrots.
Okay.
Recently became a fan of those last year. Like those, so I would guess I would go stuffing, dinner rolls, and glazed carrots.
Okay. All right. Very good. I mean, I don't take a ton of issue with that. Um, I'm gonna switch up I'll go with stuffing and dinner rolls. I'm gonna swap the order. I'm gonna put dinner rolls number one.
Okay.
I think a good buttery dinner roll, you know, it's a little bit, you pass the thing of dinner rolls around the table. There's a little bit of like cooperation that's required to get anyway.
You would
I, I, I
you would make dinner rolls like a an allegory of or a metaphor of like family coming together.
well, passing of the bread wasn't
You
Jesus.
pass
Jesus didn't
everything.
give us our daily bread. So I'm gonna give me some more carbs there. Dinner rolls one, stuffing also more carbs. Two. The only reason I put stuffing two is I've had good stuffing and I've had really not good stuffing. Like there's a
So
big range
you
of
could have it
stuffing. So
out of
I'm
the turkey or in the turkey.
also true.
Yeah,
Also true.
in the
And I
turkey is
feel
much
like
better.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But
Yeah.
I've had bad. If it's too oniony, I don't love it. If it's more
Hmm.
bready and I don't know, I
Yeah,
have
it needs
very
to be a
specific
little.
stuffing.
It can't be dry.
Cannot be dry. No, it cannot be dry. Or if it is, the nice thing about gravy is you can just smother it and kind of,
True.
make it okay. But I'm gonna go with Brussels sprouts for my number 3. I'm a big Brussels sprouts guy. Um,
I'm surprised you didn't go
have you
green
ever had
bean
a Brussels
casserole.
sprout in your life? Have you ever had a
Yes.
Brussels sprouts in your life? Have
Yes.
you? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's not
By
high school
choice?
anymore, Patrick.
By
I
choice?
have expanded
Okay.
my horizons at the ripe old age of 36 years old.
I love Brussels sprouts. Throw some balsamic like vinegar in there, balsamic glaze, some bacon, maybe some Parmesan cheese. Give me Brussels sprouts as the number 3 there. So okay, so we're pretty, we're not varying too much yet, Adam. But now we're moving down to the tight end position,
Yeah.
and a good tight end can really help you to solidify a lineup, but they can also go 2 for 17 and make you really regret starting them. So since we only start one, then there are a lot of,
Well, you could
usually a
start
lot of
two at the
options out
flex, but
there. You can, but let's stick with one. And you can give me two if you want to give me two,
I'm gonna
but
give you two.
we're going to talk about drink options
Yep.
for your Thanksgiving meal, Adam. And we're going to fill our glass with something here. And you've got your alcoholic staples like wine, you've got beer, cocktails, liquor, but you've also got your non-alcoholics, soda, apple cider, very festive options, iced tea, and water. So start one if you really want to consider one in the flex. You can give me another
All right.
if you want.
So
But
here's a question for you. Now I'm getting into it now because I don't know why. Um,
okay, good.
um, do you believe that Christmas is a bigger like alcohol holiday than Thanksgiving? Because I feel like you can do a lot more with drinks on Christmas than Thanksgiving. Like Christmas Eve, you're getting close to New Year's.
Maybe. I mean, yeah,
Like
Christmas
eggnog
parties.
is really a Christmas.
Wow, that's true. That's Christmas. I feel like there's probably some
White
more people
Russians.
maybe go the Christmas cocktail route.
No.
You don't maybe do as much of that on Thanksgiving. Maybe that's a little more traditional. I
So
don't know.
the reason
Yeah.
why I said I picked two is because it's like with Thanksgiving, while everyone's like cooking and reminiscing and chatting up before dinner, I think that's when you have beer. But actually, during the dinner, I like a nice soda. To be completely honest with you, with my food
Okay.
itself. So beer, then soda.
All right. Well, all right. If you're picking two, I'll go alcoholic and non-alcoholic option here. So alcoholic, in my mind, there's Thanksgiving dinner is red wine. There's just nothing else. You have to. You've
Okay.
got say you've got the most savory foods that you'll eat maybe the entire year. You've got these great stuffing, these
And then
things
you
with
have the most
herbs and
bitter drink
turkey,
ever in red wine.
and then you've got wine, which is perfect with some good savory. Good glass of red wine for dinner. I don't know that there's another option for dinner. I will go with apple cider. I mean,
Okay.
if I'm picking two here, like if there's apple cider there, I mean, we don't typically have it at Thanksgiving necessarily. Sometimes we might, but if it's there, 100%, apple
I
cider.
feel
I mean,
like
there.
apple cider is more of like a Halloween thing for whatever reason.
I mean, I could see that because Thanksgiving, you're kind of like at the end of fall, you're approaching winter, so maybe the apple cider, the gallon might have been sitting out in the grocery store for a little while, but
Yeah, I just think apple
I don't know.
cider is like scarecrows and like hay bales. I don't know why. Well, that's what I relate it to.
Mm. Okay, I see. So what soda are you going with there? What's your go-to soda?
It's actually Sprite on Thanksgiving. It's like the only time I drink Sprite is on Thanksgiving. So
That is a take. Okay.
yeah, oh, it's a delicacy, I guess. I don't know.
Sprite, the great Thanksgiving delicacy of Sprite on Thanksgiving. We all have
Oh God, you can't make me
our
laugh. I
things.
might die on camera.
Oh boy. All right, moving on to the flex,
Uh,
Adam. This is a little bit different. Maybe you have a flex, maybe you don't. You might have just put Sprite in your flex spot here, but fantasy manners can just go in any direction with their flex. So I'm going to ask you if there's any unique family recipe traditions that you have in your family, or other options that we haven't already covered. Don't say cranberry sauce. We'll get to
no,
that.
I'm not saying that.
But that might offer some kind of dart throw upside that you can swing a fantasy matchup with. Does anything come to mind for you on your flex spot here?
So this is funny, and you're gonna roast me for this, and I don't really care. Um, my family used to do, you like go to your cousin's house. They would make the turkey and everything. And you bring something. My family always used to bring baked ziti for some reason, um,
Okay.
as like an option. So I think that it's not really a unique family recipe, but it's something different that we brought to Thanksgiving.
Interesting. Okay, so baked ziti for us is actually like a Christmas, like a Christmas
Mm.
Eve thing. In fact, I think we're having baked ziti for Christmas Eve
It's a
uh,
365 for me.
this year. Yeah, I mean you can't go wrong. It's cheese, it's pasta, it's like more cheese. It's probably Parmesan. You got some ricotta in there. You got oh yeah,
Hmm.
can't go wrong with baked ziti. Um, and similar to the mac and cheese, give me the edge pieces that have a little bit of crispiness on them. Give me the
That's
edge
fair.
pieces there. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a Baltimore tradition, and this is again something that I'm not totally in love with. It's grown on me. It's a Baltimore thing, and my family has it every Thanksgiving. It's the first thing you smell when you wake up on Thanksgiving is sauerkraut. It
Okay.
is a big Baltimore thing. We there's always a crock pot of sauerkraut. My mom gets up earlier than anything to make the sauerkraut. My dad loves it. It's a family staple. And like I said, I've come around on it. I don't know, but it's definitely kind of a mid Atlantic Baltimore type of option there at the
Yeah,
flex spot.
it's fair.
All right, moving on to kicker. Yes, we're going to talk about kicker. Kicker deserves some love too. We sometimes forget about kickers because they have kind of a unique role, but they deserve respect. And as anyone knows, you most especially, Adam, a good week from a kicker can mean the difference between a win and a loss. So let's talk about Thanksgiving pies and pick from the following options. Now, I'll preface this by saying what people consider as Thanksgiving pies may vary. It certainly does for me. I excluded a couple on here that I've
This is
had for
kind of like
Thanksgiving
the
that
cookie party definitions of what's a cookie.
that there you go. There's some wiggle room. Right,
I hate
exactly.
you, Charlie.
But I'm going to go so options here: pumpkin pie, apple pie, pecan pie, cherry pie, chocolate cream pie. Or if you really want to throw out a pie of your choice, Adam, feel free to do so.
I'm gonna go with apple pie, with the caveat that it's a warm apple pie with a dollop of vanilla ice cream on the side. I think that is a good change from the Thanksgiving. Get a nice sweet pie with some ice cream. That would be my choice.
It is hard to go wrong with this, Adam, and apple pie certainly, I mean, that's as American as apple pie, right, is a saying. I am gonna go with pecan pie.
Yeah.
Slicing into the ooey gooey, molassesy kind of textured pecan pie is to me like a highlight of my Thanksgiving. Um, I just think it fits the season. I think most people like it. It's not a fruit
No.
pie, but I feel like it's a good Thanksgiving classic. The other one that's not on here that I love, by the way, you may not have heard of it. It's called Derby pie, and it's eaten a lot in the South. If you haven't had Derby pie, make one or go find it. It is also a nut-based pie with walnut, but it also has chocolate chips in there, and it is delicious. Chocolate and walnuts, you cannot go wrong there. So,
Yeah.
but give me for the sake of this pecan pie.
Yeah, I'd do apple pie or pumpkin pie. I like pumpkin pie too.
Okay, but I do I like pumpkin pie. I feel like that's the one on this list that people will say it's like polarizing. Like you either love it or hate
It
it.
depends
I
on
love
it.
it.
If it's good, like if it's made well. Like I don't like it where it like breaks apart and everything. Where it's like a nice clean cut.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. All right, moving on to our defense, Adam. Our last position here. Fantasy managers typically have a strong preference when it comes to team defense. They either ride out a top defense regardless of matchup, or they sort of stream defenses from week to week. And as it happens, Adam, people also have strong takes when it comes to cranberry sauce. The age old debate between canned cranberry sauce, ridges and all, or a more traditional homemade cranberry sauce. I, Adam, for one, have a very definite preference here. Where do you stand, if you stand at all, for cranberry sauce?
I don't. I just like the visuals of it. To be completely honest, I don't eat cranberry, but it's got to be from the can. You got to have the ridges. You put it right in the middle. It's kind of like a to get all sentimental like you. It's kind of like a centerpiece of the Thanksgiving table. You put it right in the middle. Um, in the can is the only way to go for cranberry sauce.
Yeah, the thief in Blue Streak that hit all those tires and wheels in the truck did not want to see the ridges all up on his ass. But when it comes to cranberry sauce, I want to see them ridges, man. Give me the canned cranberry sauce, 100%. We have to do both in our household.
Obscure
My,
movie reference from 2000 whatever 3.
I had to do it. When I heard you say the word ridges, that was instantly what popped into my mind. Give me the ridges.
Yeah.
I want to see the ridges. We end up having both because I'm the family believer in the can, so which is great because I get it all to myself.
Yeah.
Like my mom always puts the cranberry sauce,
I just feel like it's more
ridges and
work
all.
just to like make it. Like just pop it in the can. Like you know what I mean?
Well, but would you? But if it, you're not making it.
No,
You're never gonna make cranberry sauce in your life.
no,
But when it comes to taste, do you have a preference? Well, you don't like it at all,
no.
though.
I don't eat it at all. I just like the aesthetic of it.
The aesthetic. Okay, bring some red to the plate. I like it. I don't put it on anything. I eat it by itself. Give me a spoon with a couple slices of that canned cranberry sauce. I will just eat it. I will just eat it by itself. It is delicious and amazing. Probably a hot take there. All right, Adam. Well, that wraps up our Thanksgiving opening for this. Some good takes there. I think you did pretty well. I don't think there was anything that made me think less of you in there. I think we had some good agreement. We'll see what the chat says. If anyone has any hot takes about Thanksgiving food reacting to this pod, let us know in our text thread or in Sleeper or
Yes, if
wherever.
you're
I'm
tired
curious to.
of listening to your uncle talk about weird shit during your Thanksgiving, listen to the pod and give us your starting lineups.
There you go. There you go. All right, very good, Adam. Well, let's get into fantasy football. How do we do on time there, by the way?
We're only at 24 minutes.
Are you serious? 24 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Waiver wire
I'll
from
be up till
last
3 in
week.
the morning updating this. It's fine.
Doing yeoman's work, Adam. I am thankful for you, my friend, for sure. All right. Waivers from last week. 5 waiver claims processed a week ago. Not a whole lot interesting things here, but it was Zonovan Knight that was the most interesting one. 3 bids on Zonovan Knight. His shelf life is limited. Trey Benson may be returning, but at least for last week, I was able to get him and start him for $7. Jake, I think, only has $2 and left and bid $2 and didn't get him. Brian put in a $0 bid, did not get him, so I did benefit. I actually did benefit from Zonovan Knight this week, scoring a touchdown. I also added Theo Johnson, the tight end, with Aronde Gadsden by for $2, dropping Aaron Rodgers. Adam, you had a nice pickup here. Jaden Higgins, the Houston Texans wide receiver, had a nice week. This week, you picked him up for $0, dropping the injured Calvin Ridley. Brian Morgan picked up Kaimi Fairbairn for $0. Nice pickup there. And Brian also picked up Mac Hollins, the receiver for the Patriots, dropping the Colts for $0 as well. Adam, anything to talk about here? Maybe talk about Jaden Higgins a little bit.
I mean, yeah, he's just become the number 2 there with Davis Mills being the quarterback. Again, it'll be interesting if and when, because I've heard some things that, maybe because they're playing so well with Davis Mills, that maybe CJ Stroud lost his job. I don't know. I know how you feel about him. But, 2 or less 3 weeks, double-digit points. It seems like he's the number 2 there. And Houston finally beating out Christian Kirk, who I also had on my roster.
Yeah, very interesting. Will be interesting to see how Higgins fares with Stroud coming back into the fold there. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Adam, to talk about the standings. It's led by the Berlin Banshees at 10-2. He has a 3-game lead over the rest of the league. So why don't you take us through the standings after Week 12?
Yeah, so the Berlin Banshees at 10-2 in first place, also leading the Beltway Wars Invitational in points scored. Columbia Clown College, with their win this week, goes to 7-5. Union Bridge Badgers in the number 3 spot, 7-5. Reisterstown Rockets 7-5 in the 4th position. Timonium Neon Tubes in the 5th position at 7-5. Pasadena Pulverizers at 6-6 in the 6th spot. Pratt Street Po Boys at 6-6 in the 7th spot, rounding out our playoff teams as of Week 12. Penn Prairie Wolves at 5-7 in the 8th spot. Owings Mills Ozempic in the 9th spot at 5-7. Curtis Bay Chum Buckets in the 10th spot at 5-7. Westminster Wrecking Crew at 4-8 in the 11th spot. And the Finksburg Kinks believe they're eliminated from playoff contention.
Correct.
In the 12th spot at 3-9.
All right, very good. Well, without further ado, we will go into the matchups here. Adam, we're going to be talking about you and Jake at the top here. Jake, get that soundboard ready in a minute. We'll see what Jake's team sounds like this week. But Penn Prairie Wolves getting the victory, high-scoring victory over your Union Bridge Badgers, 143-88 to 139-86. Close matchup, high scorers, both exceeding your projections substantially. Penn Prairie Wolves keep themselves in contention with a must-win to advance to 5-7, still maintaining a shot at the playoffs. And Adam,
Soundboard.
you got a sound queued up here for Jake?
Yep, he got the victory sound.
All right. Well, the Penn Prairie Wolves benefited significantly from some guys that have been delivering all season. Christian McCaffrey delivered 23 fantasy points on Monday Night Football. Jackson Smith and Jigba continues to do damage for the Seahawks. 8 for 10, 167, 2 touchdowns, 33 fantasy points on his end. Got a nice game from Antonio or AJ Brown for once. Nice to see 8 for 10 for 110 and a touchdown. They did all of their damage in the first half against the Cowboys. The Eagles lose this game, but Brown was able to get into the end zone for 21 fantasy points. Other than that, pretty much ho-hum games from some of these other guys was carried certainly by those leaders. It's worth noting Andy Borregales, the kicker for
Yeah.
the Patriots, put up a nice 17 spot there. Talk about not forgetting the kicker. Nice effort. On the bench, Jackson's Dart continues to ride the pine with an injury, as does Amari DiMarcado, as does Trey Benson, as does Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta. So the banged up uh, Prairie Wolves get a big victory here, Adam. Who was Jake? Skip the beast and bust. Let's just talk about who Jake should be thankful for in week number 12.
Well, I mean, it's got to be AJ Brown. I mean, it's, second best game of the season. Looks to be very much involved. It looks like his complaining has finally got to the point where it's like, okay, he needs, 10 targets. His last two games, he's had over 10 targets, 8 catches, 110 yards, his second best of the season, and he scores his fourth touchdown. Really put him over the edge because you're going to get your points out of Christian McCaffrey. You know you're going to get your points out of Jackson Smith and Jigba. But AJ Brown's kind of that wild card, and he really showed up in this week against Dallas, scoring 21 points.
All right, Adam, there's probably got to be a player on here that I guess the Thanksgiving equivalent would be, you load up your plate, you put it on there, and then you taste it and you realize you probably should have left it off the plate. Who should Jake have left off the plate in week number 12?
Yeah, I mean, Stephon Diggs, only 3 targets in this one. Very much down game. His last 3 games, he went over 10 points. 48% snap count as well. I don't know what that's really about because this was a very close game. 3 targets, 2 catches, 20 yards, no touchdowns. Still wide receiver 19, but, this is a little bit concerning with the emergence of Mac Hollins, also Boutier there as well. Hunter Henry had a nice game in this one as well. So a little crowded pass catching options there in New England. He was my disappointment and player I was not thankful for, or Jake wasn't thankful for in week 12.
Okay, well, 2 weeks in a row as the highest scorer in the league for Jake, but it seems like he might need to win both of his remaining games against Mike and Sarah, both current playoff teams, to have a shot at the playoffs himself. How dependent, Adam, will this team be on injury returns for quarterback Jackson Dart, running back Trey Benson, and tight end Dalton Kincaid? And which of these 3 guys could you trust starting in their first week back? Again, we've got Jackson Dart, we've got Trey Benson, we've got Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Jackson Dart. Even though you're getting a lot of value out of Jacoby Brissett as well. I mean, 49 pass attempts in a game that was very close. So it looks like they just can't run the ball. They're just going to throw the ball around. So you really do like to see that. But again, with the Jackson Dart rushing ability, his floor is so high that and especially it wasn't like a lower body injury like a hamstring or an ankle, anything like that. It was just a concussion. I think you can trust him going forward, and you're starting him once he comes back. Even though I will say Jameis Winston is hilarious to watch on the football field. Like that catch that he had in that game from the running back was immaculate. I just like watching him play.
Okay, Adam, let's talk about the losing side here. It is your team. Unfortunately, this was a week with Devon Achane on bye for you, missing a key player in your offense. You did get really great production from some guys similar to Jake. You got big performances from your quarterback, Dak Prescott, over 350 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. You got 17 for 50, but 8 for 8 through the air for Ashton Genty. He scored a receiving touchdown in this game. He had 20 points. Travis Etienne for the Jags continues to fend off rookie Bashal Tutin. You own both of these guys, Adam, but Etienne, 15 for 86, also got into the end zone through the air for 19 fantasy points. And DJ Moore, a big game here, an inconsistent player that we're going to talk a little bit more about later on, but 20 fantasy points there, 2 touchdowns for the Maryland product. You also got great performances from your starting defense, the Packers, but also two of your bench defenses, the Texans with 16 and the Rams with 22. I mentioned Achan was on bye. Brian Thomas missed yet another game with injury. Adam, who were you really thankful for in Week 12?
I was really thankful for it just because of the matchup that he was in. Was Genty in this one? Again, he doesn't do very much with a rushing, attack. That offensive line is the worst in the league. Again, I watch a lot of Raiders games because I have a lot of Raiders, and he's getting hit in the backfield every single play. It's actually kind of insane. But he does save his fantasy value with catching the ball. Last 2 weeks has 8 targets. So he is the best player on their offense. They keep on trying to find inventive ways to get him the ball. So even though he's not very good at rushing, the whole Raiders offense not very good at rushing, I am thankful that they're still getting him involved.
Let me ask you, we're going to talk about this later on in terms of Brock Bowers, but as you know, probably the Raiders fired offensive coordinator Chip Kelly
Thank
after
God.
week 12, and they will be turning to a guy who has been the offensive coordinator for this team in previous seasons, Greg Olson, not the tight end, but a coach. Adam, I don't know if you've had a chance to think about that at all, or are you excited about that? I imagine you probably are.
Yeah, I mean, going back to when Chip Kelly was running the offense with the Eagles, I mean, when they had DeMarco Murray, it's like they didn't know how to use him. Like it was just like they always did like these like tossing plays, like where they get him off to the side, and that's not the type of running back he was. It was just Chip Kelly was kind of stuck in his own ways. So maybe just going back to the basics with Genty, getting the ball quickly, hitting the hole, will be better for him. But I mean, with his yards per carry, I mean he's only been over you know 4 yards per carry twice this year. So any change is good change to me. There's not like they're going to change their offensive philosophy. I think they're going to lean on him more just because he's the best player on their offense. With Brock
Okay, Adam,
Bowers.
and yes, as for the player who you probably should have left off the plate, guess there's really two options. We can talk about another Raider here, Trey Tucker, or we can talk about you gave the start to Bashal Tootin,
Yeah.
both Jaguars running backs. You want to talk about one of those two guys?
Yeah, just the. I'm not going to talk about Trey Tucker just because he did have 10 targets in this one, which, I mean, he did have the opportunity. It's just Geno Smith is the worst quarterback ever. So I'm going to talk about Tootin. It was just a bad call by me. I saw that 15 attempts last week. I thought that they would be kind of in that same range where he gets 10 to 12 rushes, maybe some goal line work. It did not happen in this one against Arizona, who you can run against. So just a bad call by me. He, went back to his backup role in this one where I thought it was going to be more of a split going forward. So just bad call.
Yeah, kind of the reason I dropped Tootin. We'll see if he gets his shot, if he's going to remain on your team. You're into the handcuff thing here lately, which is why I laughed the laughing emoji. You're doing the old style handcuff with multiple running backs. But the reason I dropped Tootin was just ETN is so good. Like
Yeah.
he's really good,
Yeah.
and you know this. I mean, he's putting up consistent
I
production. He
mean,
had a little bit of a
yeah.
lull in the midpoint of the season, but he started hot. He's getting hot again. Two
Yeah, I
straight games
mean,
of 19
I
or more
mean,
fantasy points.
yeah.
He's getting the work.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, he was the third ranked running back in fantasy football. So, like, yeah, he did have a down year last year, but he definitely does have that ability. Um, yeah, that's why I drafted him.
Okay, Adam, well, you lost, but I was rooting for you to win this week. I would have preferred a Jake loss to keep him out from underneath of me here in the standings, lower
Balls.
him a little bit. But when Brian Thomas Jr. was ruled out, I texted you, Adam. I said, "Damn it, it's going to be another DJ Moore start for you." He was the only other receiver you had on your team at the time that could play. So I said, "Oh boy, this is not going to be good." After all, Moore has been wildly inconsistent of late. He posted a 0 just a few short weeks ago. He came through in a big way for you in week 12. Almost 21 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns. So only 64 yards, so not anything special there, but the 2 touchdowns is certainly important. What is your level of confidence in DJ Moore going into next week, the next couple weeks? He's got road games in Pittsburgh and Green Bay coming up.
And Cleveland, Green Bay. So,
Oh, is it Cleveland?
well, no, it's Philadelphia, Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay.
Oh, Green Bay twice. I see. Yep. Ooh, yeah. Even
So
worse
yeah,
than projecting out 3 weeks.
suffice to say, I'm not very confident at all. He will not be starting this week if I have anything to say about it. It's just his floor is 0, which you can't really have in a starting lineup. He's already scored it at least once this year. He scored 2.6 the week before. So just kind of an emergency wide receiver I can throw in. Hopefully, he can have one of these big days. But again, it's just like there's way too many weapons on that Bears offense with the 2 running backs, Cortland Loveland. You know, you have Roma Dunze as well, Zacchaeus, Luther Burden. I mean, any one of those players can really pop off, and it's kind of hard to figure out who it's going to be. But this week it was DJ Moore. Even with the low yardage, it was only 64 yards, which I would have loved to see. I would have been more confident if he went over 100 yards and maybe had a couple more targets.
Okay, moving on to the next matchup, Adam. It's going to be Dustin and the Berlin Banshees getting yet another victory, his 10th on the season, over the Pasadena Pulverizers, 134-26 to 114-08, a comfortable 20-point victory for Dustin to advance to 10-2, still the number 1 team by far in the standings. He clinched his playoff berth last week. Adam, before we get into his players, what you got a sound effect here for Dustin's 10-2 Banshees?
Sure, I do. Just a nice victory sound for Dustin.
It just occurred to me, Adam. I had not really thought about this team name before, but you know where this Banshees name has to come from, right?
Nope.
Has to come from the famous Brian Billick quote about screaming like a banshee, coming in screaming like a banshee, his locker room speech, that famous Brian Billick locker room. It just occurred to me. This is the first time that I even gave it any thought, but I guarantee you, we'll have to ask Dustin about that, but I'm pretty sure that that is where it comes from. And Berlin, how about Berlin? You know where Berlin comes from? Berlin?
Yeah, I think that's his vacation home.
Yeah, vacation home. I thought you were going to say Germany, but yeah.
Well,
for the guy in the league that has 2 homes, has a vacation home, he doesn't need fantasy winnings, by the way. If he wins this league, he really doesn't need the money. He should donate it to
charity.
The rest of us. But anyway. Accountants. Okay, well, Dustin's team gets the victory here anyway, and does it without Drake London, who missed his first game with an injury that may keep him out multiple weeks. He does it without some of his other weapons. Jalen Waddle, Troy Franklin, Zach Ertz, and the one of the best defenses in the league, Denver Broncos. All those guys were on bye. By the way, he's got Jaden Reed on IR. We haven't really talked about that. It may not matter at all. We've talked about Green Bay, and it's a low passing volume offense. There's a lot of guys there. Dustin's held him for this long. It'll be interesting if he ends up playing him at all. He didn't need any of those guys this week. He got big production from wide receivers Devontae Adams and Rashee Rice. Both of those guys scoring in their game. I'm sorry, Rashee Rice didn't even score, and he had 20 points.
Yeah,
he was 8 for 12 for 2-point conversion, 141 yards. Devontae Adams, 5 for 8, 2 more touchdowns for Devontae Adams. Even Khalil Shakir gets in on the action with one of his most productive games of the season, going 8 for 10 for 110 yards. Could have been a bigger day, lost a fumble in this one. Kind of pedestrian days from Drake May, Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams with a down day. Kenny Gainwell had a nice boom performance. Jalen Warren was a little bit banged up coming into this one. Kenneth Gainwell goes 10 for 92, caught 6 passes for 30 yards, so a nice 15-point fantasy day there. So Adam, I don't know, he missed a lot of guys here, but came out all right and had a couple guys that he should be thankful for. You want to pick one to talk about?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you obviously know the production you're going to get out of Devontae Adams and Rasheed Rice, but Khalil Shakir, I mean, looking like the number one option there with Dalton Kincaid being out for that passing offense for the Bills. 13 points, 110 yards this season high. Also 8 catches this season high as well. Just the rich keep on getting richer with Dustin. Able to, Drake London goes out, he slides him in, and he still scores 13 points. So I think Dustin was very thankful that he saw good production out of Shakir when he had so many injuries and buys.
All right, who's the regretful start this week? Who should have been left off of that Thanksgiving plate?
You're starting him. It's just kind of this like a blah game, especially with the matchup. But I think it's Kyron Williams, where it's just kind of like they were so far ahead and like they didn't need to throw. But Matthew Stafford is playing out of his mind right now. I don't know if they're just like, okay, he's playing so well that we're just going to throw it and not really worried about running the ball too much. Now has 12 carries in his last 2 games, 14 and the one before then from a season high in week 9, 25. Only has 46 yards in this one. I think that was his season low. Yes, it was. It's kind of like, I don't know, he's not really involved in the passing game. It's a very good offense. I don't know. I know Blake Corum got some little work in this one as well. So, just kind of disappointing there for Kyron Williams.
It is, yeah. If you look at the long-term trends over the course of the season, it's not looking great. I mean, his snap percentage, his rushing attempts, compared to sort of the early part of the season, has steadily been sort of declining. Not a well, I guess you could say it. I mean, he's had weeks where he was playing 70, 80, 90% of the snaps. He's down into the 60s. And as you say, 12 carries in back-to-back games. He started the season with 18, 17, 20 carries. So
Yeah.
just not quite the production that you're hoping to get out of him. What the Rams end up doing in these games is they have been giving entire series to both of these guys, Corum and Kyron. And so, depending on who's in the game when they're having a good drive, might dictate how much work they're getting. It's not like they're rotating in and out on a drive. Each of these guys are getting drives.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of
to
the Etienne Tootin kind of conversation now, where it's like, yes, you do have the starter, the number one starter, but you also have a guy that's going to get 7 to 10 carries a game that's going to really dip into that RB1's value.
Yes, not probably. Yeah, that's a dramatic example, but there is some aspect of that I could see there as well. Okay, Adam, we got to talk about Drake May. Uh, it's time to talk about Drake May. He's still the QB2 on the season. He's still the second ranked fantasy quarterback, but he's been held below 19 fantasy points 4 weeks in a row, even despite some really favorable matchups. So, taking a peek at his stat line reveals fewer touchdowns, fewer rushing yards, and more interceptions um, than his 520-point weeks earlier in the year. Assuming that Dustin is going to lock up that first round bye, that's pretty much, I think that is a given at this point. I think he's done that. He won't really need May in a tough matchup against Buffalo, so that's good to start the playoffs because he'll have a bye. But he will have some adverse rooting interests against Baltimore in Week 16 before the Patriots head to New Jersey in Week 17 to take on the Jets, who held May to 15.4 points last week. Are you worried about these matchup against the Ravens and the Jets at all in the fantasy playoffs?
No, not really. I mean, even watching the Ravens games with Tyrod Taylor, they were moving the ball down the field. It's not like this Ravens defense is suddenly vaunted again. It's just that they get turnovers when they really need them. So that's still a plus matchup. You're still playing them. And the Jets, as Week 17, a week before the season ends, they're not playing for anything. So yeah, you're starting him with confidence. I feel like just been kind of lower games, and I don't think that there's any reason that you would start Jared Goff over Drake May. Jared Goff, just to say, in the playoffs has Pittsburgh and Minnesota. So, I think you're just going with the higher upside of Drake May.
I think he'll be fine. I agree with you there. Okay, let's move to the losing side of this matchup. It is the Pasadena Pulverizers, Sarah's team, dropping another one here to drop to 6-6. 666, 6-6 record, number 6 in the standings. That's the Devils' number. 114.08. Respectable point performance here with some big performers. But Adam, you got a sound effect for Sarah's losing team this week.
Yeah, and a game that she really needed, to try to solidify herself in playoff contention. She's still in. It's just a lot cloudier now.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
So go ahead.
Okay. Didn't have a decision at quarterback. It was Patrick Mahomes with Justin Herbert on bye. He has a third straight game under 18 fantasy points, Adam.
Yeah.
Tough matchups in those games, but still, you wonder, okay, is he going to return to this sort of under 20-point guy? He's got Dallas in week 13, but tough matchups the rest of the way, including Houston, Chargers, and Denver in the fantasy playoffs there. A couple of those matchups in the fantasy playoffs. So a little bit of a tough road ahead. It could lead to some interesting decisions should Sarah hold on to her playoff spot. Kind of disappointing days from Jonathan Taylor. Again, tough matchup at Kansas City. 7 fantasy points on 16 carries. He's got one of the most brutal schedules.
Yes, he
We've
does.
talked about it last year. I think we talked about this, last week. His brutal matchups coming up: Houston, Jacksonville, Seattle. Jacksonville on the schedule twice. That defense has gotten quite good. Got a lot of disappointing performances that we'll get into a little bit more, but George Pickens, certainly not disappointing. 9 for 9, 146 yards, and a touchdown. Good for 25 fantasy points, outperforming his teammate on both the Cowboys and the Pulverizers, CeeDee Lamb, who was just 4 for 11, continues to struggle with drops. 9.5 fantasy points for Lamb, but did get big games out of tight end Hunter Henry, who had one of his kind of reminder games of he's good for a couple of these games a year. 21 fantasy points against a weak Bengals defense. Big performance from Jake Bates with 13. Was missing Keenan Allen, for whatever that's worth. Was missing a Marion Hampton, a guy that looks like he's going to return, Adam, potentially this coming week, but probably more likely in week number 14. So Sarah lost this one again. Respectable point performance with 114. Who should she be thankful for? Probably Pickens, but who should she be thankful for here?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Pickens. I mean, the second guy in this Dallas offense coming out of the draft this year now is a certified number 1 wide receiver. I don't think anyone really expected him to take the mantle over from CeeDee Lamb, just with the relationship that Dak has with CeeDee. Also picked in the 5th round, so getting a top 3 wide receiver in the 5th round is money in the bank. It looks good. That 1-2 punch there, stacking the Dallas wide receivers, seems to be working out. It was his second highest yards of the season, also scores a touchdown in this one as well. So he is my thankful turkey for Sarah this week.
So Pickens was drafted in
5th round.
2022. Ben Roethlisberger retired in 2021. Do you think Pickens would have worked out had Roethlisberger been a little bit younger and had a few more years? Do you think they would have worked out if they had teamed up on the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have been, that Antonio Brown, that Juju Smith-Schuster when he was with the Steelers. Had a really nice year with Roethlisberger there as well. So a poor quarterback play with the Steelers definitely doesn't help. And, he's obviously a very talented player and found a nice home there in Dallas. But again, he is a free agent next year. How much money is he going to get in free agency this year? Because every single team could use a George Pickens on their team.
100%. He is about to get. He's a free agent.
Yes.
This is one of the best like free agent pending free agent
And
seasons
Dallas
that
is not
I've
going to be
come.
able to sign him.
No,
No.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, probably can, but knowing Jerry Jones, we saw what happened with Micah Parsons. He's just not willing sometimes to spend the big bucks on some of these guys.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb has a huge contract. You're going to give another wide receiver a huge contract? I don't think that's very likely.
Yep, for sure. Okay, Adam, who should Sarah have left off the plate? She didn't have many options on the bench
No.
that were much better, but if there's one guy that kind of didn't live up to this to the billing this week, who's it going to be?
No, I think I just stay with Dallas. I think it's just going to be CeeDee Lamb. I mean, wide receiver number 34 in fantasy football this year. I know he missed 3 games, really 3.5 games. He still gets the targets, but again, like you said, the drops are just kind of annoying. He hasn't been over 100 yards since week 7. Only has 2 touchdowns on the season. Picked, round 1, pick 6, so definitely not getting the value that you thought you'd be getting. Has Kansas City this week as well, good defense. Then Detroit, Minnesota. So I'd say that he's probably, a wide receiver 2 in fantasy football, but, just kind of disappointing. You were hoping that Pickens and Lamb would be a little closer together. Maybe having 2 fantasy wide receiver 1s on the same team.
I want to linger here, Adam, a little bit and ask you about another player that I was maybe hoping you would talk about here, and that's Rashid Shaheed. This is a
Yeah.
guy who was traded at the NFL trade deadline from the Saints to the Seahawks. We thought, hey, this could be good. The Seahawks offense was outperforming expectations. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been a serious force all year. That passing defense offense with Sam Darnold was looking quite good. We thought it might be an upgrade or at least a lateral move for Shaheed, but he has been not very good
No.
in his limited time with the Seahawks. Just a half a point this week
Yeah.
against a leaky Tennessee defense. I want to just get your thoughts on Shaheed and like, is this just him still getting acclimated? I mean, this was the system. The other thing, by the way, he's playing with an offensive coordinator that he's played with before. So
Okay.
we thought, hey, if there's a guy that's going to work into the system, it's going to be him because he has history with this offensive scheme and the coordinator. What do you think I mean, what is he going to be? Is he going to be startable the rest of the season here?
No, absolutely not. I don't think he's shown you anything to show that he's startable. Really, that home run threat. He's also doing kick returns, punt returns as well. Maybe that's why they brought him in, is to do that.
Mm.
Maybe because you still have Cooper Kupp there. You still have the 2 running backs. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to get 14 targets a game. They do like some of the tight ends there, AJ Barner. So yeah, he's just unusable, maybe even droppable at this point. But with the way the free agent market looks like, you're probably just stashing him on the bench. If something did happen to Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think that his value goes way up. But until then, it's the Jackson Smith and Jigba show.
Agreed there. Totally, totally. As a Jackson Smith and Jigba manager in another league, I'm hoping that is the case. For the record, that is Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, who was the O coordinator for the Saints in 2024. Okay, well, we've talked about the declining production of several of the role players on Sarah's team over the last couple weeks. That trend continued this week with starters Jordan Mason and Shaheed, as well as bench options Ramondre Stevenson and Rashad White, all disappointing performances. The similarity with all of these guys, and throw Keenan Allen in there as well, is that their roles have sharply diminished in recent weeks. Do you feel comfortable starting any of these guys moving forward? Again, those names Jordan Mason splitting carries in Minnesota, Rashid Shaheed, the situation that we just talked about, Ramondre Stevenson might have been fully upstaged by the rookie Travion Henderson, Rashad White with Bucky Irving coming back, and
And
Keenan
Sean
Allen
Tucker there as well. I mean,
kind of disappearing. Yeah, Sean Tucker. So any of these guys that you have any confidence in starting
I
in
mean,
the foreseeable future?
not really. She's really hoping that Amarian Hanson comes back quickly so that she can get Jordan Mason out of the
Yes.
lineup. Then at the flex spot, you'll have a little bit more options. Keenan Allen, I think, is a worthy flex option there. So, yeah, you don't feel comfortable starting any of these people. They're all trending in the wrong direction.
Indeed, they are. Okay, Adam, that does it for this matchup. We'll move to the next. If I can find it here, it's going to be Mike getting the victory over Josh. A narrow victory, 126-64 for the Clown College over 120-56 for the Chum Buckets. A 6-point victory for Mike to advance to 7-5. He's jumped. I think he jumped. Did he jump 3 spots? I think he jumped 3 spots up to number 2
Yeah.
in the standings with this performance. Big change there for Mike. That sounds pretty good, Adam. You got a sound effect queued up for Mike?
I'm at the top.
All right, yeah. He's feeling good right now, back in the second spot with a very talented team. Go ahead, Pat.
Feeling good, but also what a weird week for Mike.
Extremely.
Baker Mayfield, your quarterback, gets hurt but completes 9 of 19 passes for 41 yards. Did he leave? How
Yes.
early did he leave this game?
He left. He tried to come back in, then he left Teddy Bridgewater finish out the game because the game was really out of reach.
All right, well,
his snap
3.5
percentage
fantasy.
was 56, so he played about half the game.
Okay. All right, half the game. Well, three points on pace for 6 if he played the full game. 7 maybe if he'd round up. Not great. Not great at all. Very inefficient for the Buccaneers, but didn't really need it. I mean, got one of the all-time great performances from
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, 15 for 219, 2 touchdowns, 11 for 12 through the air, 12 targets. Like, that's just
Insane.
you get 15 carries and 12 targets. Anyway, I'll let you talk more about him. 3 total touchdowns for Gibbs. And then James Cook, overshadowed by Gibbs, but hey, 17 carries for 116 and a touchdown. 3 for 3 through the air for 13 yards. So Cook with a 20-point day. Also got another second straight awesome performance out of Michael Wilson, the de facto number 1 receiver in Arizona, filling in for Marvin Harrison Jr. It'll be interesting to see if Michael Wilson has staying power in this offense. He has been fantastic
Yeah.
over the last 2 weeks, averaging 16 and a half fantasy targets in those games. 15 targets is crazy. 18
crazy.
targets last week was crazy.
Well, when you have your quarterback
26
thrown 50 times a game, it's kind of like it has to go somewhere.
Amazing. By the way, I feel about Kyron the same way I feel about who's the guy I always talk about that I hate? Oh, CJ Stroud. I feel like they're the same guy. I feel like both of those guys are just ass, absolutely ass. Anyway, Darnell Mooney, I just want to talk about on the bench. Adam, I just have to brag a little bit. Not to say I told you so. Hey, 3 for 3, whatever. But 74 yards, did get a long touchdown from Kirk Cousins for 14 fantasy points. Nice to get a victory, by the way. Garrett Wilson on IR, still here for this team. Krosky Merritt was on bye. Not that you were starting him anyway. But Adam got huge performances. Gibbs clearly carried him. I'm guessing that's who you want to talk about. What a guy to be thankful for, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute, historic game out of him. Goes into overtime, takes his first rush in overtime for 70 yards and a touchdown. Really, puts his week into the stratosphere. 219 yards, season high. 45 reception yards, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Just amazing. And again, early on 15 carries. So he doesn't even hit the 20 carry mark, but rushes for over 200 yards. So very light sample size. Did, kind of spike up to 74%. in this one. So, what else is there to say? He is a top 5 running back in fantasy, and he really shows it off here in a very, very plus matchup.
Huge game for the Lions. He was their really only offense in this game for the Lions.
Yeah.
Really amazing. Amazing performance. They won 34-27 in a close game over the Giants, but just out of this world good. I think it's got to be the highest fantasy total on the year. Maybe Jonathan Taylor. I'm not really sure. I think this one is actually maybe the highest. So really incredible day. Adam, a guy I didn't mention. I don't know if you're going to talk about it. Maybe it's Jamison Williams, but I don't know him. Romeo Dobbs, guys that could have been left off of the Thanksgiving plate. Adam, who do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Jameson Williams doing his goose egg here, his second goose egg of the season.
Damn it, Jameson.
After 3 straight games of, 10 or more points, 14, 20, 17, does absolutely nothing in this one. It doesn't make any sense. They signed him to a huge contract extension at the beginning of the season, and they're just like, you know what, sometimes we're just not going to use you at all. You're going to be a decoy, and that was the way this one. I thought it was really turning around, because of these 3 straight, high, points here, but not the case. Really struggles in this one. It's only 3 targets. Just blah. It's like, I don't know, green bean casserole. Ugh.
Yeah, green bean casserole. By the way, hit the start button on the Patrick rant of the day. I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. So they won this game barely against the Giants, a team that they should have no problem without Jackson Dart. By the way, they should have destroyed the Giants in this game. Okay, Jameis Winston, fine. We thought, as you said, he turned the corner. A couple weeks ago, Dan Campbell said he took over play calling.
Yeah.
And when he did, Jameson Williams took off. It was like this was the guy that had a terrible start to the season that all of a sudden the change in play caller was going to have huge impacts. And it did in the last couple weeks. But a Giants defense that's exploitable through the air, 3 targets?
Yeah.
Like, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown in this league, so I was happy with that. But I started Jameson Williams in another league, and I'm not happy.
Me too.
This is ridiculous, man. Yeah. So, I don't know what to think. I mean, God, look at the matchups coming up. It's bad, good, bad, good, bad, good. You got Green Bay next week. You don't feel great there.
You can't even go by the matchups. Because this was a good matchup.
Yeah, you can't.
It just wasn't involved. I mean, I really thought that, coupled that, the OC change coupled with the Sam Laporta being injured was going to really open it up for him. But it just seems like some weeks you're just like, you know what, you're just going to be a decoy. You're just going to run around. Khalif Raymond was involved in this game. It was just like, ugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had more points than him.
All right. Well, second goose egg of the year there, as you say. And Adam, there's a lot of guys on this team that I could ask you about for this question, but I want to zero in on one guy, and that's tight end Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
The Raiders' offense has been awful this season. As you know, you watch a lot of Raiders, right? You know about this. And it's really affected Bowers' production. I mean, we've talked about it in previous podcasts, like new offensive play caller, kind of new system there, new head coach. Was Bowers going to be? It hasn't worked out. They've got the new coordinator, Greg Olson, and I asked ChatGPT to sort of take a look at Olson's play calling history. Again, he served 2 stints in previous years as offensive coordinator for the Raiders. He's been in this system. I asked ChatGPT what this change in offensive coordinator means for Brock Bowers. And the response is that Olson is a guy that builds offenses around his best weapons. I like what I'm hearing so far. He uses play action motion and mismatch hunting rather than a rigid system. So he's trying to find mismatches against the defense that they're playing. There's not many better mismatches, by the way, than Brock Bowers. So ChatGPT thinks Olson is likely to feature Bowers as a primary conflict player. more design touches, more seams and crossers, and more opportunities to exploit linebackers in space. How much optimism, just like I asked you about Genty, does this give you for Bowers for the rest of the season, given though that they have a brutal schedule coming
Yeah.
up?
I mean, it's not going to change my optimism until Geno Smith's not the quarterback anymore. I mean,
Yep.
first of all, like I said, their offensive line is garbage. Second of all, Geno Smith is absolute trash. Um, could Pete Carroll be a one and done? He could be. Um,
Could be.
just how bad this team looks. Especially losing to Sador Sanders in his first start. That's just like not a good look. Again, tough. I mean, are they winning a game the rest of the season? I mean, Chargers lost, Denver lost, Philadelphia lost, Houston lost, Giants maybe, then KC. They might not win another game. And this is why I was kind
Damn
of
it.
this is why I was kind of lower on Brock Bowers going into this year, is because different quarterback, different system. It's just like you can't go by what the usage was last year, which was insane. The best thing for him is if Aiden O'Connell decides to come back and lead this team, because when Aiden O'Connell was the quarterback for them and Gardner Minshew was, he was getting 13 to 15 targets a game.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, the teams that you named, Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, Texans, Chiefs, those are all potential playoff teams. So with very good offenses. I mean, I guess there's something to be said that they may be throwing the ball quite a bit because they're going to be down in terms of game script, potentially by quite a bit to some of these teams. So maybe that's your saving grace.
Well, let's just talk about
But I don't
Denver.
know,
He's already
man.
played Denver once. He had one catch. It's like,
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. That was following a 37-point explosion against Jacksonville.
True, but he's a talented
to-
enough player that he's going to have those breakouts. But do you see him scoring over 20 points in any of these games the rest of the season? I find it hard pressed to, but he definitely has the
Yeah.
ability. But they need a quarterback change, is what they need. Just put in Kenny Pickett, see what he has. It cannot be worse than Geno Smith.
Yeah, I co-sign on that for sure. By the way, Geno Smith was giving the finger to Raiders fans in this after this game ended. So
Yeah,
just not,
we want this toxicity. I want them to
not
change
good.
quarterbacks too, Mike.
Yep, for sure. All right, the losing side of this matchup was the Curtis Bay Chum Buckets. By the way, if I get a little loopy, I've been sipping on a whiskey cocktail here, so
Wow.
we'll see
Drunk
how
on the
we
job.
finish this one out.
It's crazy.
It's a long episode.
Yeah,
I
no
appreciate
shit.
you, Adam. By the way, I appreciate you hanging in with me, being sick. Like, I hope everyone appreciates that. You're here. You're not feeling good. It's not COVID, is it?
No. So, since this is going to go long anyway, I can give you a slight story. Quinn sneezed into my open mouth on Sunday, and
Ooh.
I was like,
Ooh.
I am going to be in trouble the next couple days. And, today I woke up, sore throat, sinus pressure, achy all over. I'm like, oh, God. So, yeah, the joy of children in kindergarten, where they just bring home all the germs and you get sick.
Absolutely gross. All right. Well, I don't even know where to go from there other than to say the Curtis Bay Chum Buckets lost this one after a close game. That's so gross. 120.56. Let's get a sound queued up for Josh here. 5-7, number 10 in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, a really close game, and got some some refreshing results from some players that he drafted very high, but then also had some disappointments. Let's go over it.
The unbelievable trend of Sarah and Josh winning and losing in the same weeks continues with yet another loss for both of these teams. Both teams that have been dropping precipitously over the last however many weeks. But look, Jalen Hurts, hey, this was a guy that we talked about last week as like, hey, is it Hurts or Purdy? Well, hey, She goes with Hurts, or he goes with Hurts 30.86. Pretty nice compared to Brock Purdy's 7.32. So
Yeah.
right decision there. But otherwise, look, okay, 120 points again. Sarah scored 114, Josh scores 120. Both of these respectable, very respectable point totals. Successfully uses the inactive player roster substitution, uh, giving the start to Josh Jacobs, who was hurt. So Emmanuel Wilson's um, 25.5 slots in there quite nicely. Had a nice game filling in for Jacobs. Other than that, like, okay, Puka Nakua 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hoping for more.
Yeah, I mean,
Juwan Jennings.
it's like Devontae Allen's
But
catching all the touchdowns. Puka's
yeah,
on the
that's it.
outside of the 20s.
That's it. Like 11 targets, great. 97 yards, great. Ugh, you're
I
hoping
think he
he
had like
gets those end
60 at
zone runs.
halftime too. So,
Yeah.
but the
Ugh.
Rams are so good that it's like they get ahead and it's like, well, we don't need to like do anything. So,
Right. Right. I mean, as otherwise, like, not a whole lot else to talk about
yeah,
in terms of the positives here. I mean, on the bench, Jacoby Myers had a nice game, which is good to see. It could mean that he could be usable. It was his first good game since being traded to Jacksonville. He had 6 targets, but does get his first touchdown of the entire season
yeah.
for Jacoby Myers with 13 points on the bench. Adam, Hurts, Wilson, one of these guys you're probably thankful for.
Yeah, I
Guessing
mean,
you're going to want to talk about Hurts.
yeah. Let's talk about Hurts because okay, great numbers, right? 30 points. You'll take that any day of the week for your quarterback. But let's look at. I mean, I feel like he's just like such a conundrum. I feel like it's like when he rushes the ball in, it's good numbers, but like he can really drop off if he doesn't rush the ball in. Now he's never had a single point game, but I mean week 2 against Kansas City only 101 passing yards. Week 4 does throw 2 touchdowns, but only 130 yards. 135 against Detroit in week 11. It's just kind of like I don't know. It's like when they have a good matchup against a team that they can move the ball against. Again, this Eagles offense has kind of been a conundrum as well. They got absolutely stopped in that second half against the Cowboys, which is not a good thing to see. They have Chicago, the Chargers, and Vegas coming up, so those are good matchups. But it seems like that he really just like when they design runs for him and they really commit to him running the ball, he can really skyrocket in point totals, but they don't do that sometimes, and it's just kind of inconsistent.
Conundrum is the word. I mean, Adam, if you told me that the Eagles were up 21 to nothing in the first half against the Cowboys, and somehow, even with that 21-point lead, Jalen Hurts was going to have his highest number of passing attempts on the year with 39, I would have like questioned your sanity there. But sure enough, a season high in passing attempts, despite having a 21-point lead. Barkley did not get the work that you would expect him to get. Just
No,
I don't understand what they're
I don't
thinking
understand
from
it
the
either.
offensive side of the ball.
No.
Doesn't make any sense. And they lost the game.
Yep.
They 21-0 lead. They panned to Jerry Jones in the booth, looking all depressed and looking like he's going
Looking
to
like the
scream
Crypt
at
Keeper.
reporters after the and and here they come, and they score 24 straight points and beat the Eagles 24-21.
Yeah, I mean
I don't
most
get it.
impressive part is that the Eagles did not score another point. I mean,
I don't get it.
I
It's
don't get it.
crazy.
Football's weird.
Ridiculous. All right. Anyway, well, Adam, thankful for Jalen Hurts for sure. How
Yeah.
about a guy who should have been left off of that Thanksgiving plate?
Yeah, I could go Alvin Kamara, but it's just kind of like he got hurt
Hurt.
in this one, so we're gonna stay away from him. Let's go with Xavier Worthy. You do like the 8 targets here, but again, this whole Kansas City offense has kind of really been struggling recently. Um, you have Travis Kelsey, who's having a resurgent season. Rashid Rice also being very good as well. And Patrick Mahomes struggling. It's like, yeah, Xavier Worthy is the third option on this team. And it's just kind of been disappointing. You were expecting him to be that really, like, 1 to 1A. type of player on the opposite side of Rashid Rice. That is not the case this year. He is now wide receiver number 57 on the season. He did miss 2 games, but 4 catches, 59 yards, only has 1 touchdown this season. It just hasn't worked out for him, especially being picked in the 5th round.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Xavier Worthy here because it looks to me, Adam, like Josh is going to need to pick between Xavier Worthy and Jacoby Myers in his wide receiver 3 spot moving forward. In 3 games with Jacksonville, Myers has seen his yards per catch essentially double compared to his time in Las Vegas, and he scored his first touchdown this season um, in Week 12. But Brian Thomas figures to compete for targets when he returns from injury. By the way, Brenton Strange returned at tight end for the Jags as well. So there is a little bit of a kind of crowded pass catcher room for Jacksonville. But Xavier Worthy has already had a slight edge over Myers in targets in recent weeks. He's had at least 7 in 3 of his last 4 games.
Yeah.
Do you prefer one guy over the other, or is this matchup dependent?
I think it's matchup dependent, but it seems like one player is trending in a better direction, one player is like just kind of staying the same. Where Jacoby Myers trending in a better direction. Only 6 targets in this one, but as long as Brian Thomas is out, this is a no-brainer. You're starting him over Xavier Worthy. I'm not so sure that Brian Thomas is going to play this week. I know they're saying that he is, but they said that last week too. So he needs to get a full practice in to be able to come back, and especially against Tennessee, number 2 option probably in a Jacksonville offense. I think for next week I'm starting Jacoby Myers over Xavier Worthy, but watch Xavier Worthy go for 185 yards next week.
It is interesting. He's currently second on the team in targets on the season. Am I looking at target? Yeah, team targets. He's second on the team. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown is number 1. Rashid Rice obviously catching up after his suspension, but and Marquise Brown, Hollywood is not doing a ton. So I don't know. He could still be the number 2 guy. You factor in Kelsey. You factor that they've got a couple running backs that they can use. So maybe it equals out, but. Yeah, interesting to see what decision. I think Xavier Worthy could still be usable, but we'll see what decision is made for this team moving forward for Mike.
Fair.
For Josh.
Josh.
Sorry. It's the alcohol. Okay, Adam, next game. It's me getting the victory here over the West. I'm just going to start by saying my team has no business making the playoffs. I'm just going to say that from the top. I will admit that. I have no business being in the fantasy playoffs yet.
Fantasy karma is building.
No. See, no, seriously, I really don't. It's not a good team. After losing Malik Neighbors, this is just not a very good team. But I get the victory here, 120.56 for the Po Boys over the Westminster Wrecking Crew with 113.18, a 7-point victory, narrowly. Making it back to 500 for the second time this year. 6-6, the number 7 last team in as of now. Scott put up a nice fight, but it was my Po Boys, Adam. Do I get a nice sound effect for my victory here?
I always come back.
Yeah, you kind of started the season very slow. You're now in playoff position now. But got, some interesting storylines for your roster, including an injury. Go ahead.
No, I was nervous. The storyline here for me is I was nervous about some of these guys. I was nervous about Caleb Williams against Pittsburgh. I didn't love the matchup. He ends up going 19 for 35. Not terribly efficient, but 3 touchdowns. Lost a fumble here. Could have been a little bit bigger of a day. 21 fantasy points. I was also nervous about Jalen Warren, who was okay, here's Kenny Gainwell. Gainwell had a nice game, but Jalen Warren getting 18 carries coming off of an injury, that's a big reassurance for me, starting him in the future. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, it was a slow start to the game. for the Lions, but they eventually get him going 9 for 13, 149 yards, and a touchdown, 25 fantasy points. I needed every bit of that to get a victory this week. I wasn't missing too many major players other than Aronde Gadsden at tight end in his place in that same Lions Giants game. Theo Johnson, the tight end, gets 3 for 5, 77 for 9 fantasy points. So coming in the clutch for Theo, getting those 9 fantasy points for me in a spot start. Parker Washington on the bench, also of note, 5 for 7, 71, and a touchdown for 15.5 fantasy points. Adam, I think I told you a couple guys that I was thankful for, but who do you want to talk about here?
I mean, I think it has to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, 13 targets, now wide receiver number 3, 149 yards, his best mark of the season. Also catches a touchdown in this one as well. Um, this is a player you got in the second round and is now wide receiver number 3. So good on you for that. Best game of the or second best game of the season. Um, you know, Jared Goff's favorite target. He's getting all the targets. You put him in the slot, you put him on the outside, doesn't matter. Yeah, definitely thankful for him with Malik Neighbors being out for the year. It's also ended
Yes, and
third as the
thankful.
third wide receiver in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
And he's not
I
drafted
mean,
like that.
he's not trying that. Well, that was my next thing. I'm very thankful for the owners that passed up on Amon-Ra St. Brown and allowed me to get him early in the second round after Neighbors. Um, so yeah, uh, still a little bit of disappointment on this team. I mean, Higgins, by the way, won't play next week. Won't play tomorrow against the Ravens. He was out, ruled out after suffering a concussion last week. But Adam, there's no terrible performers
No.
here, but I'm sure there might be a guy that you want to talk about in terms of not necessarily should have left out of the starting lineup, but a guy that maybe could have expected a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Flowers, just with the matchup that he did have. Um, it seemed like he was involved early in the game, and then they just kind of went away from him. Um, Again, he's the number one option on a Lamar Jackson ran team, and as we've been saying on the group chat, Lamar is not healthy. I don't care what anyone says; he does not look like the same person that he is. Um, 58 yards, his third lowest of the season. 6 targets seems to be where he's at nowadays. 5-6, 5-6 in his last 4 games. 5 receptions in this one. So, run first team probably hasn't really been needed in many shootouts in these past couple of weeks just because of the schedule. But, well, very interesting player to kind of think about with Cincinnati on Thursday night. I don't know if Burrow's playing, but if Burrow's playing, that could be really a shootout there. So, interesting player to keep in mind, but wide receiver number 24, I think you're expecting a little bit more out of him, at least try to be in the top 15. So, just been a little bit of disappointing thus far.
Agreed. Yes, hoping to get more out of him for sure. Well, as I mentioned, Adam, the short week for the Bengals means that T. Higgins will not play tomorrow against the Ravens after entering concussion
And Burrow is
protocol.
coming back on Thursday.
Burrow will be back, of course. Higgins being out is going to mean that Parker Washington, I think, is just going to need to be my third wide receiver following a nice performance in week 12. It's going to be regardless of whether Thomas comes back or not. He's just going to be my best option here. As usual, though, I have a big decision at flex. I've got Chris Rodriguez in a tough matchup at home versus Denver. Ugh. Kyle Monangai at Philly coming off of 12 carries and a touchdown. I've got the consistent mediocrity of Tony Pollard at home versus Jacksonville. Or Chris Godwin at home against Arizona in his second game back. And newly acquired Greg Dortch, a waiver acquisition, potentially an option as long as Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. The update today is that Harrison Jr. is back at practice, so Dortch might not be an option. So, Adam, I don't know. Any of these guys, Chris Rodriguez, Monangai, Tony Pollard, Chris Godwin, it's not great options, but any preferences? I'm asking for help here.
Tony, am I crazy to say Tony Pollard? Like, is that crazy?
Oh, gross. It's so
It's so
gross.
gross. It is so gross. But I don't know who else. I mean,
You're sabotaging me. You're trying to
Parker
sabotage me.
Washington. I mean, like with Brian Thomas coming back, he's going to be the third, maybe fourth option in that passing game with
No,
Brett
he
Strange.
has to play. No.
Oh,
He's my wide receiver 3, Adam. He has to
okay,
play.
okay.
He's don't
Well,
even
then
think
I
about
think you got to
that.
go Chris Rodriguez. Then even against Denver, you hope that he just falls in the end zone. You don't have any good choices here, my friend.
No, I know I don't.
Chris Godwin has a
I don't know what
questionable
this is.
tag. I mean, he's already hurt again. So, and they might not have Baker Mayfield. They have Teddy Bridgewater. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's gross. Gross. By the way, you see 2 lava lamps in my background. I have. Did you have a lava lamp as a kid, Adam?
Yes, we're moving on 1:30 thus far on this podcast. I'm just letting you know. An hour 30 minutes.
Shit. Okay.
So if you want to go on your diatribe about lava lamps, you might have to like make an article
I'm
or
just
something.
Yes,
I did have a lava lamp.
Yeah, I did too, and I've gotten back into them. I've purchased 4 lava lamps on eBay in the last month.
Okay.
I'm obsessed. They're awesome. They're fucking awesome, man. I love them. Just bought an orange one and a purple one for Ravens and Orioles. Anyway, okay, moving on to the losing side here, Adam. It is Scott. Oh, it was a must-win game for Scott. It couldn't quite get it done. 4-8, number 11, probably out for all intents and purposes, not a player for the playoffs. JJ McCarthy. We've talked
Well,
about the quarterback
let's
issues
do a
for this
sound
team.
effect first.
Okay.
Sound effect works perfectly for JJ McCarthy, so go ahead.
Yeah, number 9, right? The alternate ego. I guess that's 9, scoring .48. Oof, boy. God, what a miserable performance. That cost Scott the chance at the playoffs, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts Sanders, he wins.
That is true. Yeah, 10 points from Shedeur Sanders. Boy. I didn't even think about that. That is true. Did get nice performances out of the running backs. Kareem Hunt, 30 carries for the veteran, 104 yards and a touchdown. And Tyrone Tracy for the second week in a row. A nice game, 20 carries, 62 yards. Involved in the passing game as well. DK Metcalf scores a touchdown. Quinshon Judkins scores 2 touchdowns, but otherwise relatively inefficient. Harrison Butker, 15. And the Browns defense, 10 sacks against the Raiders. I was watching that game and just ripping my hair out because it was still close at that point. And watching Geno Smith get sacked on every play was just frustrating as hell. So that was not fun. Nothing to say on the bench. Jamar Chase was missing with his suspension for spitting in the face of a defender. Ladd McConkey was on bye, so missing a couple big options. Tough end to the season, likely for Scott, Adam. But let's start out with at least the bright side. Is there a player you want to talk about to be thankful for here?
Yeah, I mean, 30 carries for Kareem Hunt. That's kind of nuts.
It's crazy.
104 yards is most of the season. 30 carries is most of the season. Also has his most catches of the season with 3. And there's something. I think that Isaiah Pacheco did he even play in this one? I'm not even sure.
I don't think he did.
No, he did not. So it'll be interesting to see how that really breaks up in terms of, how the split is. But again, Kareem Hunt, 4 straight games, double-digit points. And this was a very close game, so it's like they really relied on him. The passing game wasn't really working the way that they thought. Has Dallas next week as well, who, if you're not the Eagles, you can run on them. So, he's definitely thankful for him this week, almost getting him the victory.
Okay, couple options here like Kyle Pitts, Cooper Kupp. Who do you, or JJ McCarthy? Pick one.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be JJ McCarthy.
Oof.
There's no reason to start him. He shouldn't be on a roster. You start anybody else. Anybody else that has a pulse. Question. Are you starting Geno Smith over J.J. McCarthy right now?
You don't need to start either one. There's better options. You don't need to start
But I'm
either
saying
one.
it's that conversation now. Like, they're horrible. I mean, he's horrible. He can't get the ball to anyone. He plays Seattle next week. Good defense there.
No. He doesn't play anybody next week. They benched him. It's the
Well,
rookie Hosmer.
Oh, okay.
Hosmer.
Yeah, he has a concussion anyway. So.
Yeah, no, he's
okay. So yeah, he's definitely droppable now. If he's not droppable already. Just horrible. You took a swing on a young quarterback that didn't play last year. He had a whole year to learn the playbook. Apparently, he didn't learn enough because he is absolutely awful.
Yeah, thinking Scott probably could have used some of his fab dollars that he has stored for a better quarterback. This is Scott who drafted Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy in the draft. He has never been able to successfully find a good starting option this season. So unfortunate end to the season for Scott here. Adam, I want to talk about the Browns here. The early season success for rookie running back Quinshon Judkins has faded, and while the workload is there, he's one of the more touchdown-dependent players in the entire league right now. He's had the misfortune of playing with two rookie quarterbacks, and the inevitable stacked boxes has resulted in 6 straight games with Judkins being held below 3.5 yards per carry. The Browns have turned to Shedeur Sanders at quarterback and have some favorable running back matchups on the slate. Where would you rank Quinshon Judkins at the running back position for the rest of the season?
In the 20s. 25. I mean, look, he's still going to get all the work. Now it's another rookie quarterback. You're still thinking that they're going to run the ball. He gets all the goal line work, especially in this one. I mean, he just ran 2 in. It was from an empty set as well, where he took the direct snap, directly. Shedeur Sanders wasn't even in the game for both of his touchdowns. So, 25, I think it's safe to say, flex option kind of running back.
Okay, in an effort to try to speed this up, we'll move on to the next game here. These were 2 low-scoring games. The last 2 games were under 100 points for all parties involved. It was the Timonium Neon Trees, Brian's team, getting the victory. 96 points. Oh, no.
Oh, roast his ass.
Damn it. I was doing good, so good for a couple weeks. What's the alcohol? The Neon Tubes, 96.64. Over the Fingsburg Kings, 68-52 to move to 3-9 on the season. Brian is the number 5 team. He's 7-5. Adam, let's get a sound effect going here for Brian's Neon Tubes.
He gets the victory eagle this week from some good performances, or okay performances from his players. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say good for sure. Daniel Jones, 16. A lot of guys held under 10 points here, though. Rico Dowdle, 9. Justin Jefferson, 6. Rome Odunze, 6. Josh Downs, 2. Yikes. Low-scoring game here. It was at least Trey McBride getting 9 for 10 for 79 yards. Didn't get into the end zone, but 12.4 fantasy points was good enough for tight end number 3 on the week. He has been really good as of lately for the tight end position. The Ravens defense, 13 fantasy points against the Jets in a nice game there. Was missing a couple options here. Bo Nix at quarterback forced him to start Daniel Jones, who was okay with 16, but was missing Kamani Vidal and Quentin Johnson with the Chargers. Both of those guys out on a bye this week. Bucky Irving still in the wings, waiting to return for Brian's team. Adam, Brian can be thankful for that, but at least in Week 12, was there anyone really to be thankful for here? Probably Trey McBride.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I talk about Trey McBride every week, but these are really the only one to talk about. the Jacoby Brissett change, we talk about quarterback changes, has been a gold mine for Trey McBride owners. 10 targets in this one, has double-digit targets in his last three. 9 catches, 79 yards. Tight end number one now. More reliable. He's going to get his looks. He's on the field all the time. He's going to get red zone looks. Could easily, very easily, finish the season as the number one tight end in fantasy football. Just a beast, and he continues to show why this week. Even though he didn't score that many, still 9 catches, 79 yards is pretty good for your tight end.
Okay, who's that side dish that you put on your plate that you're just not happy with?
Yeah, Roma Dunze, I think, is the culprit here. Last 2 games, under 7 points. It does have 9 targets in this one, but it only has 3 catches for 53 yards. Again, Chicago's pass catchers whack-a-mole. 1 week it's going to be Cortland Loveland. 1 week it's going to be DJ Moore. 1 week it's going to be Roma Dunze. And you can never, ever figure out who it's going to be. You really thought that he was immune to this after his, really fast start. First 4 weeks he had over 10 points. But no, it just kind of seems like whoever, the X factor is going to be, he did have a 0 against Cincinnati, which is crazy. So it's like, it kind of has like that, not as bad, but that Jameson Williams kind of feel where it's like, we're just not going to use you. And, yeah, you're expecting, top 10 from him especially after the first 4 weeks. Now he's slipping down to the 15. He might end the season in the top 20 range, 20, 21, that range.
Yeah, that's tough given that he was drafted. Let's see. I guess he was drafted in the 7th round, so maybe, I don't know. I thought he was drafted a little earlier, but that seems about right. You were certainly hoping for more, for sure, from a Dunze. Okay, well, at 7-5, Brian's Neon Tubes climbed 1 spot to number 5 in the standings, but they definitely want to win at least one of their remaining games against Charlie and Scott. Rico Dowdle, Adam, is the guy I want to talk about here. He saw just 6 carries in Week 12 after averaging more than 20 over the last 3 games, and he had his fewest carries since Week 2. Panthers coach Dave Canales chalked it up to game script and trying to build on Bryce Young's record performance 1 week ago. Dowdle's date with the very good Rams defense in Week 13 and his Week 14 bye could make things a little sketchy for Brian. What do you think about all of that?
I mean, I feel like just because of the track record that he does have, he's definitely beat out Chuba Hubbard in terms of being that number 1 back. You got to start him every single week because he has shown that he can have those blow-up weeks of 30 points. Now, 9 is not a great day, but it's not a horrible day either. For your running back, it's just if he scores a touchdown, that looks a lot different. So you're riding with him, and you have Bucky Irving coming back, so you'll have Bucky Irving, Rico Dowdle. I can think that's not a bad 1-2 punch if they're both healthy.
Yeah, 5 of those 9 fantasy points were through the air, so
Yeah.
at least there's that for now. Okay, Adam, let's move to the losing side here. We've said that a lot this season for the Finksburg Kinks, who dropped to 3-9, still the last team in the standings at number 12, 68.52 points. Not a very good effort. You got a sound effect for this?
I'm sure I do.
Knockout!
All right.
Yeah, like funeral music here for Tom.
I just did knockout before him being knocked out of playoff contention.
Yeah, that happened a week ago.
I think he's definitely
sure.
mathematically out now.
Oh yeah, no, that happened last week.
Okay.
You're a week behind
well,
here.
A reminder then.
Like we'll do our weekly thing of giving props to Matthew Stafford for 22.9 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns here for Stafford, continuing his incredible streak.
Yeah.
I mean, the favorite for MVP at this point. Like he keeps adding to the touchdown total and not adding to the interception total, which is incredibly impressive for Stafford. I don't know what else to say. I think we can get through this pretty quickly. I'm not even going to mention any other names, Adam. Just
Okay.
talk about Stafford, and then we'll talk about all the other. Uh, uh, just talk about Stafford.
All right. So Stafford, hasn't thrown an interception since week 3. Has had multiple touchdowns in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight weeks. So, or 6 out of 7 weeks. So, obviously MVP, high-powered offense. Sean McVay's really using his strengths. He's got probably the 2 best pass catchers in the league, in Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua. It's just all right as rain. It's just very interesting for Tom. I know he's out of it, but he has a decision to make here. He has Joe Burrow, who's going to start on Thursday night. Do you go Joe Burrow instead of Matthew Stafford? I don't know. There's no quarterback playing better right now than Matthew Stafford.
I'm facing Tom. I'm equally curious to see which way Tom goes on that one. Um, All right, Adam, here you go. Here's the weekly list of players under 10 points for Tom's team. Saquon Barkley, again, I'll round up. I did this last week. Barkley, 9. Sean Tucker, 6. Alec Pierce, 4. Addison, you can't round up from 0, right? So 0. Dalton Schultz, 2. Keyshawn Boutte, 3. Brandon Aubrey, 8. Bears, an even 7. I don't know. Again,
Yeah, I mean,
just pick one of these guys.
it's Addison with the 0 mark here. Again, it's interesting name to kind of think about with the quarterback change. But with J.J. McCarthy, he's just been pretty bad. Hasn't scored over 10 points in his last 4 games. So, very talented player. Maybe Max Brosmer can ignite this Vikings offense, but he was particularly bad this week with a 0 mark and only 1 target.
All right. Well, with the loss, the 3-9 Kings are the first team eliminated. Oh, you're right. It was this week, Adam. My bad. It was this week that he was eliminated from playoff contention. 68.52 point effort is a fitting way to clinch that most unfortunate scenario for Tom. We've talked a ton this year about the struggles of this team's youth, but I want to ask you about workload. This week, the running backs on this team had 12, 10, and 3 carries. Wide receivers and tight ends collectively had 7, 5, 4, 4, 2, 2, and 1 targets. That group of 7 pass catchers collectively caught 14 balls. Do you see a path to more work for any of these low volume players in that low volume in week 12 that maybe could get an increased role in the coming weeks?
Not really. I mean, all these players are either number 2 or number 3 on their teams in terms of pass catchers. I mean, Boutte, Addison, Alex Pierce. You have Josh Downs and Michael Pittman there as well. Tyler Warren. So it's just kind of who they are. Now, one of these players will have a blow-up week, I'm sure. But it's just not consistent, and that kind of shows with Tom's record this season.
Okay, Adam, let's move to the last game. Mercy, it is the Owings Mills Ozempic getting the victory over the Reisterstown Rockets, 2 in a row for Charlie. Ooh. 91.42 for the Ozempics to 87.92 for the Rockets. A narrow victory for Alex to stay in playoff contention at 5-7, the number 9 team. Unlike previous weeks, it was Josh Allen with a kind of a poor outing here against the Texans. Really good defense, 8 fantasy points for Allen. This team was led to victory by really 2 guys, Derrick Henry, who scored twice on Sunday against the Jets for 21.8, and Wan'Dale Robinson, who has a great game here, 26 fantasy points, 9 for 14, 156, and a touchdown. This is with Jameis Winston, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dart when Dart returns, what he means for Wan'Dale Robinson. Probably Alex would maybe like to see Winston continue to start the way that this week went. Was missing Terry McLaurin, was missing Marvin Harrison, both of those guys injured. We'll talk about that. But Adam, is there a guy here that Alex can be thankful for in week number 12?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Derrick Henry. Second straight game of over 18 points. Again, his last 5 games, 21 carries, 19, 20, 18, 21. Where you look at earlier in the season, he was getting games of 11, 12, 8. So the usage is back up. He's getting work. He's getting touchdown work. He's even catching the ball a little bit. Now running back number 11. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Those are some nice, juicy matchups for Derrick Henry. I could see a 200-yard game here coming up, maybe against Cincinnati. It only takes him, one run to score, 15 points, with the yards and the touchdown. So, yeah, definitely thankful for Derrick Henry.
Yeah, the Bengals, you mentioned we play them twice in the next 3 weeks. They've given up 156 yards on average to running backs this season. That's good for second worst in the NFL. So definitely an opportunity for Derrick Henry to excel in the next couple of weeks. We're assuming Alex gets to the playoffs, that week 15 would potentially be very nice. Okay, Adam, couple options to pick from in terms of a guy that maybe should have been left off of this starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the Emeka Ibuka. 2 straight games on under 7 points. You do have some of the pass catchers coming back, but he is the main guy, especially looking at the one at Buffalo. Only 5 for 40 against the Rams, 3 for 32. I know Baker did get hurt in this one, but it's just kind of concerning that if Baker does miss time, how much does his value really plummet? It's just very talented player, but he's might be hitting that rookie wall a little bit of trying to figure out where he stands, especially with the quarterback being injured, Bucky Irving coming back. There's just a lot of moving pieces with Mbuka, so I'm a little bit concerned about him going forward.
Okay, well, Alex got a must win this week to stay in contention for that playoff spot, but his squad seems to be suffering from the same thing as Sarah's pulverizers. A bunch of guys declining in either role or production or both. And Alex has been forced into starting some of these players in the multi-week absences for Marvin Harrison Jr., who's missed 2 weeks with a concussion, and Terry McLaurin, who's missed the last 3 with a quad injury. Harrison Jr. practiced today and has a decent schedule over the next 2 weeks. Terry McLaurin expects to practice this week, but has a brutal stretch of games ahead. Assuming they both return this week, what can Alex expect to get out of McLaurin and Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Might be a little higher on McLaurin for whatever reason. I don't know why, but against Denver, that's kind of a hard matchup. Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, now you have some playmakers there. Michael Williams, Greg Dortch. You still have Trey McBride there as well. Now, if Jacoby Brissett's going to throw 50 times, it doesn't really matter. He can still get his work. But Marvin Harrison has the better matchup against Tampa Bay this week. So probably a little higher on him, but you like having him back. You don't like starting Jerry Jeudy, who has a rookie quarterback at the helm that has struggles throwing the ball. So either one of those for Jerry Jeudy is a must.
Okay, moving to the losing side here, it's Charlie dropping his second game in a row. Adam with 87.92 fantasy points. Not great, and a really annoying loss that we'll talk about here, but you got a sound effect to play for Charlie.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, just kind of struggles here in this one with some players that have produced in the past. Go ahead.
Yeah, not a lot of scoring here. In fact, I'm looking at this roster here. There were 0. This is another one of those instances of 0 touchdowns across the entire roster. Not even Lamar Jackson could find the end zone here for Charlie's team. I mean, nobody went over 15 fantasy points. Chase Brown, nice rushing efficiency here for the Bengals, 19 for 107. Involved in the passing game as well. Brees Hall with 11.9. Again, involved in both rushing and passing, but did not couldn't crack the end zone against the Ravens in this game. Nico Collins struggled against Buffalo. Travis Kelsey struggled against Indianapolis. Kenneth Walker, that's at least a guy that you're seeing maybe a little bit of clarity in that Seattle Seahawks backfield. Um, he at least rushes for a 6.45 yards per carry, his second highest on the season. He's now 3 straight weeks over 4 yards a carry, so that's good to see out of Kenneth Walker, who was struggling with efficiency earlier on in the season. I mean, this was a really close loss for Charlie's team. 7 points out of Lamar Jackson could do it. So could -2 from the Lions in a game against the Giants where you felt a lot of confidence that they could be a good defense. Takes a -2 against the Giants. So, Adam, I mean, maybe Chase Brown, but who do you want to talk about as a player to be thankful for this
It's
week?
Chase Brown, especially with T. Higgins being out this week. He's very interesting against a Ravens defense you can run the ball on. Again, he now has 5 straight games of over 10 points. Has 107 yards, his second best of the season. Also, a little bit of work in the passing game as well. With Joe Burrow coming back, defenses are going to have to focus on Joe Burrow a different way than they do with Joe Flacco. So, hitting 100 yards for his second time this season, 19 carries, you like to see it. He's my beast, and he's what Charlie should be thankful for.
All right, well, without talking about Lamar Jackson, pick another guy here to focus on for a player that maybe shouldn't have been in the starting lineup this week.
Well, since you took mine, Detroit. The only reason I say that is because New England against Cincinnati might have been, on the road. Cincinnati on the road. New England has a good defense. It's kind of nitpicky, but they do have an interception. They had a sack. They had a touchdown. Where Detroit, James Winston is a capable quarterback, and it's very interesting that he's the third quarterback on that team. Where I think that he could be a viable backup or starter for some other teams in the league. But that's the only nitpicky call, and if he goes the other way, he wins this matchup. So, Detroit Lions defense with the
Okay,
negative.
shout out to the DST position. Made a difference in
Yeah, if
this
it's in a
matchup.
negative, you kind of have to shout it out.
Okay, well, Charlie's Rockets, as we said, are 7-5, but they could easily be 9-3 if not for the astoundingly bad outings for a clearly injured Lamar Jackson. Like the Ravens, Charlie is still well positioned, probably better positioned than the Ravens for a playoff berth, but also like the Ravens, may not go very far in the playoffs if Lamar continues to underperform to this degree. I just want to give you an opportunity, Adam, here to assess the situation and how Todd Monken needs to exploit the Bengals and the Steelers over the next few weeks, given Lamar Jackson's apparent limitations.
So first thing to kind of notice about Lamar is he hasn't thrown the ball 30 times at any point this season, which is obviously going to hurt your floor in terms of that. Again, like we've mentioned before, he is not the same runner that he is right now. He is not healthy. It's either his ankle or his hamstring that's not fully 100%. But I think we're going to learn a lot on Thursday with the Bengals because the Bengals are the worst defense of all time. And, if he goes back and scores 25 against them, then there's nothing really to worry about. Now, if he struggles against the Bengals, it's kind of like we're worried now. He has Pittsburgh, who he does not play well against historically. Cincinnati in the first week of the playoffs, and then New England, who is a very capable defense. So we need to see it out of him this week. If you don't, I'm starting to get worried about his health and usage if they're trying to protect him, more lean on Derrick Henry going forward.
I totally agree there. When, if not now, for Jackson, the Bengals, we talked about how bad they are against the rush, 31st in the league. They're worse against the pass, absolutely dead last, allowing 259.8 yards per game through the air, 26 touchdowns allowed. through the air is the most in the NFL
Yeah.
by several. Like the next highest, I think, is Cowboys at 24. So
Yep.
not a good defense at all. Okay, well, that is the end of our very long Thanksgiving episode. Adam, I'm thankful for you for sticking in despite your illness here. But while you're pulling up the Week 13 matchups,
Yep.
I just wanted to point out that there are 9 teams, Adam, in this league with either 5, 6, or 7 wins. So there are a lot of possibilities over the last 2 weeks of the season. And in keeping with the Thanksgiving theme, we should all be very thankful that there are no teams on bye in Week 13 and 4 teams left to go for their bye in Week 14. So, Adam, with that, let's take a look at those Week 13 matchups.
Yeah, the Union Bridge Badgers at 7-5 going against the Pasadena Pulverizers at 6-6. Owings Mills Ozempic at 5-7 going against the Westminster Wrecking Crew at 4-8. The Pratt Street Po Boys at 6-6 going against the 3-9 Finksburg Kinks. The Reisterstown Rockets at 7-5 going against the Timonium Neon Tubes at 7-5. That is my matchup of the week. Penn Prairie Wolves at 5-7 going against the Columbia Clown College at 7-5. And the Curtis Bay Chum Buckets at 5-7 going against the Berlin Banshees at 10-2.
Interesting. Mike and Jake are going to be my matchup of the week for what it's worth. We'll see how that one shakes out. Okay, well, thanks for sticking in. If you listen to the whole thing, gold star for you. Happy Thanksgiving. We will see you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening and your support. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.